Last week we put out a video asking for you to send us your videos of you performing live, and today we are going to review them.
It's worth noting here that we are only going to be reviewing the live performance. We do touch on a few other things, but we aren't going to talk about the songs, the quality of the songs, the quality of the playing, or anything like that. This is solely down to the live performance and little things that might influence that. So the first thing that I really noticed with this band is that your stage attire doesn't really sync with one another. So you've got like the drummer that looks like they're in all black, you've got the bassist that looks like they're in all black, and they've got the guitarist that's wearing like almost like hard rock gear with like a Ramones vest that's all kind of cut off, which looks cool and it looks kind of rock band, but the other two members don't look like that and aren't dressed in that style. So I don't want to say that one or the other style is better, but I think it needs a little bit more sync between each of the members. Just something to think about, because I do think that that would take your band to another level if you all kind of look like the same style.
For me, the performance on a whole was really, really good. I noticed that the guitarist seemed a little bit static and there wasn't really much independent movement on his behalf. One other thing that I noticed with this band was the guitarist and the bassist only ever seem to perform well when they're interacting with each other. They don't really have the ability to perform individually, independently of each other. So whenever there's like an instrumental break or whatever, they just come to the middle of the stage and they rock out with each other for a few seconds and then they go back to each other. And that's kind of it.
Yeah, capture that you're doing there in that moment to each other and do that to the crowd at all times.
Because that kind of makes it look like that individually you're not confident enough to perform like that, and you're only that confident when you get the energy from the other guy. I don't know, I guess you just have to be a bit more confident and just trust that what you're doing is good, because the way that you're performing with each other is good. You just have to be able to do that individually.
Yeah, I think, and this comes up a lot with the rest of the videos that we're going to watch, and it comes up with a lot of bands that we work with, and I don't want to say you have to create like a false energy, but you have to be so into your own songs that the kind of big energy and like performance that you're giving is so natural, because you love this song so much that you just kind of, you can't help but move to it. And
one thing to add to that is when you're on stage, you're not you. Like Lenny Bedford on stage is not Lenny Bedford. Lenny is the front man of his band. He's not an individual person. He is part of the greater whole, which is his band.
Yeah.
So you have to behave like a band.
Yeah, I guess an example of this, and it's a band that actually named themselves after it, is a band called Superorganism. Like, they literally named themselves because they're all small parts of one bigger thing. Every band is that. You just have to kind of view it like that, and it makes it a little bit easier to play the part, if that makes sense. I don't know if you mentioned it, but the drummer looks a little bit more rigid than the other members.
Yeah, I noticed that the drummer looked a little bit vacant, like he was just kind of like playing.
Yeah, I think a lot of drummers have this issue that they'll just kind of play it and just kind of stare off, like, you've got snare hi-hat and they just kind of stare into that
like
space
the middle
there.
distance.
Yeah, and a lot of drummers do this, so you're not on your own, but I do think it's something that you need to not do, because it's not entertaining to watch, and in an ideal world, all of the members at all times need to be entertaining to watch, because that's the point, you're putting on a show.
Alright, this first song is called Strangers Again.
That little pause there, you introed the song, paused, looked at the drummer, then started the song. There's something about it that I really don't like. It just kind of, it seems to me a little bit almost unprofessional, and that's not the right way of wording that, but there's something about, this is da-da-da-da. Song starts. That pause there is
It breaks
unnatural.
the momentum, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. So work on that. If your drummer isn't ready, that's their fault. There is more to it than that, obviously, but because you started the set, look, is everyone ready? Intro the song, and you know they're good to go. Don't do it the other way around, just because it breaks the flow a little bit, and you could do with keeping the flow as much as possible, especially because that is the beginning of the show.
When the sun goes down, you can't see the stars come down. And after all this time, it's strangers again.
One thing that stood out for me in this performance was that both the guitarist and the bassist were singing at the same time pretty much throughout the whole performance. And the reason for this, I'm guessing, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that neither one of you is fully confident to take the reins of lead vocalist. And because of that, you both sing at the same time. Now, you might be trying to do like harmonies or backing vocals or whatever, but it wasn't really apparent in the video that you sent us, so forgive us if we're wrong. If you are going to continue both singing the lead vocals all the time, have one of you try and do some harmonies or do some back and forth, or one of you take the verse, one of you take the chorus, because again, I think it's an issue of confidence that neither one of you wants to be, oh, like, I'm the singer. They want to be like, oh yeah, we'll both just sing the song. So say, for instance, when me and Lenny used to be in a band and do this, I would do a verse, he would do a chorus, or vice versa. And when we were both singing at the same time, we would try, note the word try, to do harmonies. And
Well, I think at that point you would do the harmony because you were better at it.
Yeah.
Few little notes for the drummer, and I don't know how relevant this is, but your left hand looks really unnatural. Like when you're hitting the snare, it looks almost like you're hitting it like how jazz drummers play, and it's almost like I don't know. There's a little bit of wrist action there that's not normally here in this genre of music, and I don't know if that's a bad thing. I don't know if that's a good thing, but it looked different, and I don't know, just something to be aware of, that is something that people will notice, whether you want that to be the case or not. I didn't notice on the first time that I watched it through, but the second time I watched it through, the drummer does a lot of cross his hands to hit both the crashes. Now this is something that can look cool, but you did it like 10 times in the space of like 20 seconds.
You have to do that in moderation. If you are doing that to kind of be flashy and be like, oh yeah, I'm doing crash, you have to kind of do it at a time when it makes sense to do it, not all the time. Because if you're just playing the crash, oh shit. So if you're playing the drums and all the time you're hitting the crash cymbals like duh, 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 it looks kind of silly.
Yeah,
I think.
Like pick a point that's got some oomph to it, that's got something that you want to emphasize, and use that as like a bam, 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 and then don't do it for the rest of the set.
I think this is the problem with a lot of live drummers. They see like these really big famous drummers in like bands with like 15 toms, and they feel like, oh, I've got to have all that equipment, I've got to be as flashy, I've got to do stick twirling, I've got to throw my sticks, I've got to do all this shit. It is really not necessary. Make sure that you're playing good stuff and performing it well, and then you can worry about all the flashy shit.
Yes, 100%. And that goes for the guitarist, the bassist, the singer, whatever. Flashy shit is not as important as the basics done well. Guitarist, when you're playing that riff, you're kind of hunching, and I think you're hunching because your guitar's too low. If your guitar is too low that you can't play a riff without hunching over, maybe your guitar is too low.
Who does that remind you of?
I used to do that. So, I get it. You think it looks cool. It don't look cool when you're having to struggle to play a riff because your guitar is so low.
To be fair, I used to do that as well. I once had this huge, like, Rickenbacker copy bass. It was, like, taller than me.
Yeah, you did.
And I had it really low, and I was like,
yeah,
play it all the time.
Which, I mean, I'm not going to say it didn't look cool, because we liked how that looked, and we liked how all of us together kind of looked. But I have recently started playing with my guitars higher, and I play better. I can concentrate on my singing better because it's more natural to play there. My wrists hurt less, and I'll be honest, it doesn't look less cool. Like, you've seen a load of bands in the genre that you play, so like pop punk, punk rock, where the guitar's low, and you think that's how it has to be done. You don't. There's a punk band on the rise currently called Idols. This is what their guitarist looks like when he's playing. That couldn't look more Biffy Clyro if he tried. So it really doesn't matter. It looks really unnatural because it's so low.
So for me, the thing that stood out with this particular performance was that you didn't seem to look at your crowd. So when you were playing the song nice, you were kind of moving with it, you were in the mood, you were in the zone, but your eyes either looked at your guitar or at your feet. There was no kind of crowd interaction. You don't have to be talking to your crowd all the time to engage them. Just look at them, just make eye contact with them to let them know that you know they're there.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how much just a bit of eye contact kind of goes with an audience. It's just like an acknowledgement that they're there, and it becomes more of an experience for them if the singer just looked at me, kind of thing.
I don't know, for me it always kind of feels like I'm just watching this band play and I'm not in the zone with them when they're not looking at me.
100%, yeah. It gives the exact same thing as when a band member, say, comes out into the crowd. Again, this is something that idols do a lot. You are now a part of it. They're with you. They aren't up on the stage. It's not like a two-part thing where they're there and we're over here. It's a thing. And eye contact is the starting of that kind of audience involvement.
However, you do not need that kind of audience involvement as a solo singer-songwriter.
That's
as a
true.
guy who stands there playing acoustic guitar, that is kind of all you really need to do. If you suddenly start thrashing around in the audience and trying to get some call and response going, it might seem a little out of place.
It might. However, if this footage is available online, I don't know if it is, I'll put it here. We work with an artist called Thomas and the Empty Orchestra, and we went to a show that he did a few months ago, and for a particularly meaningful song, he ditched the mic, ditched the PA, came out into the audience, and just him and a guitar just performed a song in the audience with everyone. It wasn't thrashing about, it wasn't like kind of the punk kind of moshing. It was really intimate thing, but because he was out in the audience with everybody, it was even more intimate. So there's that aspect to that too. This is just kind of touching more on what Joe said, like if there's a bar or even longer where you aren't singing, that is a perfect opportunity to maybe stand back from the mic and just kind of take in that moment. What you're doing when you aren't singing, when you've got a little bar where you're not singing, or you've got a little section where you're not singing, is just staying exactly where you are and just watching your own hands. That means the audience is looking at you, seeing what you're looking at and just staring at that. And watching someone's hands play chords is really boring. Okay, the first thing and this applies to every single band member, this song, if I was just listening to the audio, sounds like it's full of energy. It sounds like it's got a hell of a lot kind of going on. It feels like I should be seeing people bounce off the walls. It feels kind of big and full of energy. And when I watch the live performance, it has little to no energy. Your singer has got a little bit of energy, but that's like the bare minimum of what you should be doing. Your rhythm guitarist half looks like he doesn't want to be there, and the bassist is like, yeah.
I think he was the lead guitarist, actually.
Oh, well, okay. The guitarist that's not singing looks like he doesn't even want to be there, and the bassist, he's kind of in between the two, but really what the singer's doing is way below what you should be doing. You need to be moving about, especially the people who aren't tied to microphones. Why are you not jumping about like some people in the crowd are? Why are the crowd more into that song than you are?
As well, the guitarist was doing what I like to call nervous swaying, where he was just kind of stood there and going...
Yeah, it's like I need to move because I'm into this,
Yeah.
but
He was going over to the side a little bit more than usual, then coming back and going like... It just looked funny. I mean, he was playing I think he was playing like some kind of high riff, and he might needed to concentrate a little bit more than usual to play that particular riff. But while he was doing that, yeah, funny in my opinion. It looked a little bit out of place. You all looked like you weren't really a solid unit. You were all playing your each individual things, and I mean, I couldn't even see the drummer. I don't even know what the drummer was doing. But
so we can't really judge that.
no.
Maybe he's going mental at the back. Chances are that's unlikely. But I don't know, you've got a really good crowd there. Like, most bands at your level aren't playing to crowds that are that into your songs. Like, kind of take that opportunity.
Yeah, give them something back.
Yeah. Like,
They've come to see you perform.
and they're obviously enjoying it.
A lot of people have come to see you perform, and they're clearly very into it. So fucking get into it.
Okay, before we show you any more of that, that's some really good crowd work. I'm presuming before you started this kind of video, you were like, okay, everybody get down, and including like your bassist is sat on the drum thing and everyone's kind of down there, like 1, 2, and then everyone stands up and jumps. That's some really good crowd work. Like, in terms of your interaction with the crowd, I can't really fault it because that is some really good interaction that you've got going on. My first criticism, and it's not massive, it's same as what I mentioned earlier, your outfits don't really match. You've got a few people in t-shirts, which is fine, that kind of fits the genre. Got one guy who's the person to the right, like from where we're seeing it, the person to the right of the singer, who's wearing like a dinner shirt, like a white dinner shirt. Didn't really stand out as being odd until I was taking notice and was like, oh, that guy looks way posher than everybody else. But your guitarist on the left from what we're seeing, who has amazing energy and needs to keep that up because that looks really good. He's wearing like leather jacket and a shirt that's unbuttoned to about here, so it's kind of like a bit hard rock, kind of ooh sexy kind of thing, which does not fit the genre of music that you're playing whatsoever. So maybe have a bit of a talk about that, because I don't know, just if you had a band photo all stood together, you wouldn't be able to tell what genre of music you're playing, which generally from a branding point of view is a bad thing, because that kind of stuff is really important as a first impression, and seeing someone that's all a bit like, ooh, look how sexy I am, my nips are pretty much out, isn't that great for what's essentially like a almost like pop rock, pop punk kind of band.
I only have one criticism of this band, because they were pretty fucking good, in my opinion, is that when the singer was singing and jumping at the same time, when you do that, your insides actually move about. So when you're singing, your diaphragm is moving up and down, and it is affecting the way that you sing. And for me, this is just a matter of opinion. I would always take singing to the best of your ability above jumping about.
There's no reason why you couldn't run or move quickly about without doing so much verticality, which might help.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be better if you jumped when you weren't singing, so it wasn't affecting your vocals. When you are singing, it's perfectly fine to be moving about and engaging with the crowd and doing all this that you were doing. And other than that, I mean, yeah, that was pretty solid for me.
Yeah, really, really good band. I also like, and this isn't necessarily down to the performance, but it is down to the stage thing that you've got going on. You have your own logo on the stage with you. I can't remember what, it might be part of a cab or something. The amount of times that I've seen a support band and they've either mumbled their own band name, so I didn't catch it, I didn't get what it was, or bands that don't mention their own name whatsoever. So I've gone, I like them, I have no idea what they're called. The fact that you've got your logo on stage, so at any point I can just read what you are, is really helpful, and not enough bands do that. So I'm glad that you've paid some money so that every single person in the crowd knows what you're called. Right, before we start, whoever filmed this video, please tell them not to film in vertical ever again. Thank you. Here's Purple Frank.
Listen, girl, are you thinking about tomorrow? Just tonight, thinking about where you are in my dreams, still grooving to the rhythm. A moving girl, casting wondering.
The way I see it is, a lot of bands, it is really vital to be jumping about and moving and engaging with the crowd. And for some bands, you just don't need that. And I think with the kind of music that Purple Frank was doing, like that kind of low, easygoing stuff, I don't really think you need that. I think that people in the crowd were engaged and enjoying it enough without you jumping about and saying, "You're all having a good time tonight," or anything shit like that. You just didn't need it. I mean, you all are kind of stood there very static, like there's four of you stood in a line and you're not really moving about, but I don't think it really needs it. I mean, it would have been nice to have some kind of, all of you just moving your feet a little bit, just like stepping one or two steps to the side occasionally.
My perspective on that is that there's kind of like this funk influence in there, there's kind of soul influence in there. It's almost like funk indie soul is kind of what I'm getting from it. And that funk element kind of invites a bit of energy. So just a bit of like, this is funky, I love this. Even for like bassist, this is just perfect for you because you're doing the funky bit. Like just a little bit of shoulder movement or something that's like, yeah, this is funky and I love it, would kind of go a long way. You don't, like you say, you don't need to jump about, you don't need to like go and thrash about in the audience or anything like that, but a little bit of, yeah, I'm into this, would go a long way. But yeah, embrace the kind of the funk and soul a little bit, especially like, again, I know I keep mentioning it, like the way that you dress, you could embrace the kind of music that you're doing a little bit more than you are to create a bit more of a aura around how you look, because you just kind of look like five normal dudes got up on stage, and maybe you like that, but everyone does five normal dudes on stage. Like, maybe don't do five normal dudes, do
Five funky dudes on stage.
Yeah, or just something like, maybe you all dress up a little bit because you want to appear as a kind of a little bit classier, or, you know, just something. It doesn't matter what, just something that's not five normal dudes. If you liked any other artist that has been performing in this video, please go and check them out, because every artist at this level needs they need more fans. So if you like any of the artists, go to their videos and go to their Spotify's and listen to them and all that kind of stuff, because that's the right thing to do. Cool, thank you very much for watching this video. I'd tell you to watch more of this series, but it's not really part of the series. Maybe it's part of the reviews.
Yeah, maybe it is part of the reviews, and maybe we'll do some of these in future.
Yeah, so here's the rest of the reviews. This is now going to be episode like 406 of the reviews then. Our best of places over there. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next week.